Hello and welcome to episode 78 of the Inventive Marketing Club. We're here every week to help you build a better marketing strategy. On this week, we're diving into the grab bag and we're looking at questions from customers and people I've met on the workshop. There's going to be a bit of a focus on SEO though. So the first thing to do is let's just dive into the first question. Claire, I don't know if you have it to hand. Do you want to read it out and we'll dive in?
Yeah, sure. So how can I check my keywords and what I should be using on my website?
It's a big question, that. Okay, so I guess the best way, if you're not really sure, you've got a website and you want it to do better on Google, the best thing to do is just have a look and see what your competitors are doing and just start by going onto Google itself. So let's do that. Let's dive in and have a look. So if I share my screen. Now we'll use an example of a sort of relatively new client. We built a website for them just last year. It went live. So we'll use them as an example, get them a bit of free promotion. So this is garden furniture. So let's make sure I spell that correctly. So what they do is garden furniture. They make and sell fire pits, all sort of built and manufactured in the UK in Cirencester. So they kind of make it all themselves. Fire pits, chimneys, benches. So garden furniture is a sort of generic term. So it's a good place to start. It's not the be all and end all keyword. Certainly you want to be more specific, but garden furniture is a good place to start. So what I've done, just dived into a Google search, typed in Google garden furniture. And I just want to have a look through the organic results. Let's see what comes up for that particular term. So we've got the range. So we're going to probably get a lot of sites like B&Q, Wix as well coming up for this. The range, that's sort of one of these big national chains. They've got the keyword garden furniture, patio sets in there. We've got another one who's very highly optimized for the keyword garden furniture, and they've chosen the domain name gardenfurniture.co.uk. So they're really majoring on that, but in their title, top quality garden furniture. Outdoor set. Not sure if that's missing a few extra words there, but it looks like they're just sort of filling up the title space. Garden furniture sets, garden furniture. Okay, so these are all big company sites. Wayfair, they're quite big, but maybe a little bit smaller than some of the others. Now here is one I don't know of, Hayes Garden World, but they sound like maybe a smaller company. So let's have a look at those because that's probably more where Kyburn is competing with. So what I'd do is actually have a look at this site and see what keywords they're using this here. Oh, cookies. So no, just deny them all. I don't want to be tracked. So we've got garden furniture. Okay, so they do similar things. They've got garden furniture sets, garden benches, patio heaters. Yeah, it's the same. Fire pit table and chairs. So from this, just from this simple search, we get an idea for a similar sort of company, what words they're using. Now, I must caveat this by saying, I'm assuming because they've come high up on Google search that they are doing their own keyword research and optimization. So we're assuming they're using the right keywords. However, by going through this process, you can start to figure out what those keywords are, even if they haven't been optimized on the competitor sites. So it looks like garden furniture is a good generic word. And then we've got the more specific ones, garden furniture, benches, fire pits, metal garden furniture. So obviously that's another keyword that people might use. So I think that's quite a good place to start, really, in terms of finding out what you should be using. But then it's time to get serious. And what you want to do is check out some of these competitors and just start noting down the keywords, just making a list of them somewhere. And then you want to do a little bit of research in those. And a good tool, well, there's a couple of tools to use, but I'll show you a free tool. I often use Google Keyword Planner, and it's attached to Google Ads. And I quite like using it because it gives you lots of data. It's free to use. There's no limitations on it. In fact, there are limitations. The only limitation is you need to have a Google Ads account. But once you've got that, you can use it. However, this tool is a free tool you can use, and you don't even need to sign up to use it, but you do have a limited number of searches. So what we're going to do in here is put garden furniture as our seed keyword, they call it. So it's another way of doing it. And it just goes away and checks. It'll go and tell us what other keywords are similar to that. And for some reason, it's put territory as United States. Let's put United Kingdom in there. Because obviously it's very important that you get the country right, because different countries will have a different language, especially with the States. They still have English, but it's the US version of English. So it's going to be very different in terms of the keywords that come up. Now, hopefully it's going to come up with something. It looks like it's taking its time. Let's see if we can try again. See if we can search again. What I don't want to do is use up all my free searches. They sort of reset each month. Let's try that one more time. There we go. What we'll do for the moment, because I don't want to use all my free searches while we're doing this, is obviously you just want to make sure you've got the right territory there. Normally it does work fine. But for brevity, I'm not going to bother about checking that. So if we have a look down here, it's giving us lots of other keywords that are relevant to that. And for me, it's giving you the volume. So it's like the average number of searches per month. So this is starting now to give us an idea of how often that keyword is used. Do people actually use that word when they're looking for those particular products? And, we are looking quite generically here, but it's giving us lots more ideas. And the aim is, between a combination of doing some competitive research like this, looking at other people's websites who come high up, and actually diving into using tools like this, we start to build up a picture of the types of keywords that people are using. We can even be more specific. Let's say we found one of the keywords here, metal garden furniture. We can put that in. And then if that comes up with any relevant keywords, we're going to see what the volume is. For some reason, Word Tracker is not being helpful to us today, but you get the point. You see how that's going to work. So something else that is really useful for this, and it is a paid tool, is to use a tool called SEO Surfer. I think I've got on this next tab here. Yeah, here. So SEO Surfer is a paid tool. It's actually recommended to us by our SEO guru, Chris Richards. And it's a really useful tool that does lots of different things. It does like an audit of your landing page to tell you how effective that is against the competition, but it can also do keyword research for you. So it's worth checking out. And I don't think they offer a free trial, but you can buy it on a month-to-month basis. So you could just pay for it for a month. And what you can do is you can go into the keyword research section, and I've already pre-done this one because it takes a little bit of time to go through and bring back the results. But what it gives you is quite useful. So it goes out and it finds sort of topic clusters, really, sort of keywords that go together. And it also sorts them and tags them into groups depending on the phase or that a customer is going through when they're shopping. So are they going through a research phase, or are they looking to buy? So there's some intent. So they're going through a shopping phase. Let's see if we can find some. I think they're all coming up as shopping here. They are just shopping, shopping, shopping. Here we are, local. Are we going to get some informational ones? No. So what you might see is, you can see this little flag at the top. It says shopping. So you might get others that are research or informational, and these are looking at different stages that people are buying. Are they just looking? They're just looking for and comparing different products, and maybe they're not really sure what they want yet. Or in this case, I'd say the intent is, I want some garden furniture, but I'm not sure exactly what garden furniture I want. So therefore, I do want to see pictures, prices, and reviews. So actually, the shopping intent is relevant here. So what we've got clusters are garden metal chairs and table, aluminium garden furniture, seat cushions, garden furniture, kettler. I think a kettler, is that like a barbecue? I'm not sure. Have you heard of a kettler, Claire?
I've not actually.
No, I won't dig into that now, but I'll have a look later. Wooden garden bench, teak garden sofa. So what it's coming up with is little clusters of keywords. And if we click on, let's say, teak garden sofa, for example, we can actually come up with various different keywords that go together. So that's a really good way of doing some keyword research, because you not only find lots of different types of keywords, but lots of similar words that go together as well. And that's really useful to help make your page more interesting. So that's super useful. Let's say this could be really useful for Kyburn. So garden, metal chairs and table. So metal dining sets, they don't really do that. They do more benches. So we'd probably want to look for metal benches. I don't know if we got here. Yeah, here we go. Wood bench. We want metal bench. Don't know if that's going to come up. Obviously, if it didn't come up and you want to be more specific about that, then that's when you can do your research again. So you put in your seed keyword as metal garden bench, and hopefully going to come up with more results and similar keywords. So that's kind of the process I go through. If I'm not sure, I start on Google first and I put in a broad keyword and see what everyone else is doing, see what else is coming up. And then once I've got a fair idea about that is the right keyword, or that I've got some other ideas, then I start using the tools at my disposal. One of them is Surfer. That's the one I go to, but Word Tracker is a really good one. So I think that's a really useful process, actually, in order to go through. I don't think, is there anything else, Claire? If we sort of covered that? I mean, there's so many other different tools, but that's kind of a very simplistic process that I would use to find out those keywords.
Definitely. And I think it's one thing that I always like to check is the number of times they use those sort of seed keywords on the page, and sort of really sort of drill down and almost count.
That's a good point. Shall I show how you do that? So I'm using Safari and I'm on a Mac. So I would type in, hold the key Command and then tap F, and then I get a little search box appearing at the top. So in there, I would put garden furniture. So now it gives me a count, 3 of 46. So they're using it a lot of times on here, and it's actually highlighting where they're using it. So I can just scroll down and you can see how often they're using it. And one of the reasons I can tell they're optimizing for garden furniture because it's in the main title. So it's in the main title here. It's up in the title at the top, and then they're using it a lot. So that's a really good point, actually, to be able to do that. And I can't remember we've got a sort of full club session where we go through from start to finish keyword research all the way through to optimizing a page. I can't remember the club number for that, but we'll find it and make sure that's in the notes. But that's a very quick and simple process to go through and do that.
Yeah, definitely. So, okay, Ben, so once you've established what your keywords are, how do you get inspiration to use those keywords within your content on your website?
So how you would use it for writing content on the page or blog articles, what sort of thing? Yeah, either of those. It's a tricky one. I mean, there's so many different things to write about. I mean, I'll show you a tool in a minute that's really useful, but the best thing to do is just help people. Think about your audience and think about what questions they might be asking themselves. You know, they have a question and they want that question answered. So they're going to ask friends. They're going to ask people on social media, which could be friends, probably not. Or they're going to ask Google. But often people want to phrase things as a question. And I think that's a really good place to start if you want to start writing content. And that can be for just a sort of landing page like this, or even for maybe blog content. But I just think, don't worry about exactly where that content's going right now. Just think about, I want to help people. So if I want to write a page that they land on that is really helpful, I want that page to answer all their questions. So I want that to feature questions. So that's where I always start. Think about the questions. So you want to think about all the different questions that are to do with garden furniture. And the tool I'm going to show you, and I've mentioned it many, many times before, it usually comes up in pretty much every presentation, is Answer the Public, which has actually been bought by this Nilay. I think it's Nilay. I think that's how you say his name, Nilay Patel, or Neil Patel. But he's bought this because he's a sort of big search engine SEO guru. He's got lots of tools, so he's bought this tool. But it's still free to use at the moment, so it's definitely worth checking out. But what you can do in here is you can type in the keyword that you want to find questions that people ask on the internet for. So if I put this in, garden furniture. So what it's going to do, make sure I set the locale here, is it's going to search for questions that feature the keyword garden furniture. Obviously, if you want questions about metal benches, you want to use the keyword metal benches. So it's going to take a few moments to do that. Now, this used to be great because you could run multiple searches and there was no limits. And over time, they've put limits on it. They start charging for it. And now you basically have 1 to 2 searches a day, I think, which is, it's not bad. You can see there's a note. If you unlock the account, you can get free searches a day. I think that's pretty powerful. Definitely worth getting a free account. It's a great tool. And, if you have to wait a day to get free keyword searches for these, hey, that's the, so be it. But you can pay and upgrade to Pro if you want more. Right, let's scroll up a little bit. So it gives you these lovely, they've improved this since the last time I looked at it. It gives you a lovely visualization of all these questions and how they fit into like who, what, where, when, why questions. Let's see if we got some examples here. In fact, what I'm going to do is, while this looks pretty, it's really difficult to read. So I'm going to switch over to the data view. So this is where they're all grouped together. So here's some questions. Can garden furniture be left outside? Can garden furniture go on grass? It's interesting because it's like so broad, really. Can garden furniture get wet? Can rattan furniture be painted? So that's where it's getting a bit more specific about, I'd imagine that's a brand. Which garden furniture is best? That's a very broad question, but might be worth asking. That's a good maybe topic for a blog. And these are a bit basic, these questions. Where garden furniture is made, that might be relevant. I mean, certainly for Kyburn, that's very relevant because it's made in the UK. So that's like a key selling point for them. But for a lot of people, garden furniture is just made over in China and shipped here. So, but that is interesting to people and that might be relevant to some people. So that's a good question to answer. How to paint garden furniture. So there's lots of different questions here. Some might be relevant if you're selling garden furniture, some might not be, but I think that's all of these questions are well worth answering. And the way I would look at this and where you might put that content is, first of all, just think about taking these questions and answering them. And depending on how long that answer is, will determine where you put it. If that answer is quite long, let's say between 500 and 1,000 words or more, that's a blog post. That's why I see that as a separate article that goes on your website that links back through to one of your main pages about garden furniture or main product category. If it's just very short answers, maybe a sentence or two, then I think they could possibly go directly on that category page, directly on that landing page. So it really depends how long it is. What you don't want to do is have a completely separate page with all of your FAQs on, because none of them are going to be relevant to a particular page on your website. And that's what we're trying to do. We're trying to make your landing pages highly relevant about what people are asking and make them useful too, so people actually do stay on your page and they don't bounce back. So Answer the Public's a really good way of finding out what people are looking at here, which I think is pretty useful. Now, I've mentioned this a lot. A tool I haven't mentioned at all is ChatGPT. Now, the reason I haven't mentioned it, and I'll show you the tool in a minute. The reason I haven't mentioned it is because it's a tool that is like an AI chatbot, basically. And we've all used chatbots to some degree. Maybe you've used Alexa or Siri, and they're chatbots we use with our voice. Maybe you're you're calling a company and you're using their sort of phone chatbot, which does something similar. It's going to try and help you, give you some information or get you through to the right department. Or we've used them online. A little chat appears at the bottom of a website, and maybe the first few questions you ask are answered by a chatbot, and they're just, again, trying to help point you in the right direction or get you to the right person, just to save time for their customer service. ChatGPT is a different chatbot. It's kind of what they call it's consumed basically a lot of information from the internet. It's used that as a training resource, which then gives it a lot of information to draw on, which allows it to answer a lot of different questions. The reason I haven't mentioned it is because it's still in beta. it's not a commercial program that you can pay for or use a free version of. It is just completely free while they're basically testing it and getting a load of feedback from people. However, it's been mentioned a number of times. I had it in a workshop just the other week. We were talking about content actually, and someone mentioned, what about ChatGPT? And I was like, it's a good point, but it's so new. I don't really want to talk about it yet because it's still in beta. I had actually talking to a client the other day who was using it for some SEO purposes. And I thought, you know what, actually, let's just talk about it. Let's share it with people, and you can let me know if it's useful or not. So let's have a look at that. So I've got a login here. So if you just search for ChatGPT online, you will need to sign up for a free account on openai.com. And once you've done that, you'll be able to log in and you'll see something like this. If you can get through, it's quite a busy service at the moment because it's quite interesting what it can do. It's been in the news a lot. You might have heard it in the news. A lot of people are using it. So it's actually quite busy. I think, Claire, when you were playing with it earlier, that you couldn't get into it. So you might have mixed results trying to get into it. But once you do have an account and you can get in, then this is something you should see. So let's think about how we might use this. It's just a prompt flashing at the bottom of the screen. We're like, what do I type into this? What can I use it for? Well, just think about it as a very knowledgeable person. And let's think about, how would I ask a knowledgeable person, or maybe actually an intern, a copywriting intern, that you want them to do some basic research for you. Let's maybe say, let's use something akin to what Answer the Public is giving us. And we want to come up with lots of questions that people ask about garden furniture. So we just need to phrase it as a question. So, and maybe being specific is quite useful as well. So an example might be a phrase that's going to give us maybe some questions that Answer the Public would give us. So I've got a phrase here. Give me 10 questions people ask about garden furniture. Let's see what happens. Sometimes it can take a little time to respond. Maybe it's waiting for some server access to become available. Sometimes I think usually actually once you've got it going, it seems to respond pretty quickly. I think it puts you in a thread. So it's just come back. We've probably had a jump cut after we were waiting for the chatbot to respond. But this is what it's coming back with. Number one, what types of materials are used in garden furniture? How can I protect my garden furniture from the elements? How can I tell if garden furniture is good quality? That's a good one. So there's 10 questions. If I'd put, give me 20 questions, it would have come up with 20 questions. That's pretty cool. That's very useful. That's really helpful for me because now I've got 10 different questions that would be useful to give to a copywriter who could start writing some of that copy, or I could start feature some of these questions on my page. But we could take this a step further. This is what's fascinating about ChatGPT, is I could actually ask it to write one of those articles for me. So that's what I'm going to do. Which one should we go for, Claire?
Well, should we go for number 9? That was a good question.
Yeah, that's an interesting one as well. So if I copy that and I go, write 1,000, actually, I'm not going to put 1,000-word article, but I found that actually if you specify the number of words, it will write an article to that length. We'll keep it short and sweet. So we'll put write a 500-word article about, and then I'll paste in that with a link to kyburn.com. Let's see how that does. So write a 500-word article about how can I tell if garden furniture is good quality with a link to kyburn.com. Right, so it's just come back in. It's probably another jump cut there where we waited about, I don't know, 20 seconds, 30 seconds, something like that. Depending on when you use it and how many other people are using it, actually can be quite responsive. But, you know, if it's going to save you a bit of time in writing, it's worth the wait. In fact, when Claire first looked at this, she was thinking, actually, it's something that you'd kind of expect. You could feed it the information, and maybe if it came back later in the day, that would be useful. So it's coming back here. When shopping for garden furniture, it's important to consider not only the style and appearance, but also the quality of the pieces you're considering. And then it goes on. And I'd imagine, I'm not going to count it, it's going to be 500 words. I have done it before, and I've seen it kind of stop at the end of the sentence because it's kind of cut it off to make sure it's exactly 500 words. Maybe you could use the phrasing, write an article that is around 500 words, and it's going to be more accurate that way. So what this is doing is it's obviously got the whole web to study. So it's going out to loads of different websites, and it's basically then pulling on that information and effectively summarizing it and rephrasing it. And I was listening to some podcasts where they were talking about this, and they were likening it to almost giving it to a child at secondary school to go and research something. So you'd imagine what they would do is they'd research on the topic of garden furniture or garden furniture quality. They'd go onto the internet, type that into Google, pick up a couple of the top results, copy and paste the text over, and then rewrite it and reorder it and rephrase it so they're not plagiarizing that other work online. That's what people have likened it to. And now I haven't read this in full, so I'm not going to count on its quality, but it has written an article about the topic that I want. It's given a little conclusion at the end. Looks like it's about 500 words. That's useful. You know, you could think, well, I'll just copy and paste that in, make a blog post, and we're done. What I'd say is you've got to be careful. You've got to be really careful. The way that this works is it sort of presents this information incredibly confidently, as if this is the answer. You need look no further. What I would say is you've got to be careful, because it may not come up with the correct result. I think you're probably safe if we're asking it to talk about garden furniture quality, that, you know, we're not going to ruin anyone's lives if they read the wrong information here. However, you do want to read through it and make sure it's accurate. It's usually going to be spelt correctly generally, but it's going to be maybe in the right language. You know, it's going to be picking up text from different countries. We were just talking about US and UK English earlier. So you want to make sure that it flows that way. You want to make sure it's linking through where you want. In fact, it's funny, you can see that the link here. So one great option is kaiburn.com. So it's actually going, it's actually going and adding that site in. So you want to make sure and go through that. Actually, it is a good article, and it makes sense, and it fulfills what you want it to do. And that's going to take time. You know, that's really where it pays to have a copywriter involved who actually knows their stuff. And I would say, if you're going to use this, and it's a brilliant tool, then I suggest you play with it, because it does some other fun things as well. That if you're going to use this, you should really still get a professional involved. This is what this is great for. It's like using Answer the Public. It's like using the SEO surfer tool. It's a really good way of just generating something to start with. Give me some topics. Give me a sort of backbone of a bit of an outline of a structure. Because then you might be able to look through this and go, yeah, this touches on all the correct points, but it doesn't really fit with our tone. It's written in the wrong way. It's not our tone of voice. It's boring, maybe. Maybe it needs to be more friendly, more inviting. You still probably need to find photos that go along with it. You'll need to make sure that actually it does link through to the right places, because while it's put a link in here for me that we just would need to hyperlink, it's then saying a company that offers a wide selection of top quality garden furniture made from durable materials. Well, that's not quite Kaiburn. They're more about metal garden furniture and specific bits of garden furniture. So, you know, we'd need to sort of riff on that a little bit. So I still think it needs a professional touch, or it needs some time and effort put into it. But I think it's a great start. It's quite fun to use in what it comes up. Is there anything else, any other tests that we could do with this, or any other questions you've got on this, Claire? Because I know you're quite new to
it is really impressive. It's just slightly terrifying as well. I think you're right, Ben. It's still a copywriter or a content writer is still very relevant, because I think it's about maintaining your tone of voice as well.
Yeah, absolutely.
That's something that you'll lose within this program potentially. But yeah, to be honest, it's pretty fast. Like, even though we sort of had a little pause, it's just scary how it can create that content. How else are people using it? Do you know? Or
well, there are other ways. That I might give a little fun example here. You can use it to write code, for example. So let's try this. A little plugin I made to go into WordPress, and I've coded this myself. But I've done it by searching on, I think, Stack Overflow or on Google, saying I want to disable comments in WordPress. So how do I do that? And you go onto various websites and they give you selections of bits of code. So what I would do is go and take that code, pull different code sources from different websites, and then basically make a little WordPress plugin that would disable comments in a WordPress site. Because for most of our clients, we don't need comments. Comments are a pain, and you often get a lot of spam coming through on it. So I want to shut that down. So I've made one myself by going through the same process that this AI might do. But let's see if it can write one for us. So I'm going to put in write a WordPress plugin to disable comments. Let's see what happens. So what it's going to do, and now this is interesting, and I might it's actually not, we did this earlier and it came up with something else.
That's amazing though, because you could use it to write you a guide on a step-by-step process of how to.
Yeah. So this is what's fascinating. What I was expecting it to do, because this is what we did earlier, we're just doing some tests before we started, is it actually wrote a plugin with the PHP code that I recognized that would do it. I didn't download it and test it, but I recognized some of the elements in it. However, what it's done now is saying, I can't actually write you the plugin. What I'm going to do is give you instructions on how to do it yourself. So this is fascinating. It's actually come up with some instructions here. So this is useful. As Claire was saying, you could actually then write this as a guide on your website on how to disable them. Or if a client asks you that question, you go, oh, I can't bother to write that. You can use this to get it to write that for you. But actually what's interesting is it came up with a different response to my question from before, and actually didn't write me the code I wanted. It came up with some instructions. So that's fascinating. Let's see if I can just do that again. Let's phrase it in a different way. So write PHP code to make a WordPress plugin that disables comments. Let's see if that comes up with anything different. Here we go. So this is what I would expect it to do. This is what I did when we were doing a quick test beforehand. So it's actually writing some PHP script. Now, obviously, exactly the same. In fact, a bit worse, really. If you were to copy and paste this and just add it as a plugin to your WordPress, to a live WordPress website, on your head, be it, you would need to test this code first, or understand what it's doing. But it just shows the sort of variety of work that this can actually do. So it's quite fun. I'm just going to stop that generating. We don't need to see all of it. But yeah, it's quite fun. It can actually do quite a few different things. Now, I was going to mention that we actually talked about an AI and content generation in a previous episode. Is actually when I was looking through different plugins. And I think that was this one. Yeah. So we talked about a plugin called Bertha AI. And that was very similar in a way that you could give it the bio of the company or some keywords you wanted to talk about, or it would even generate keywords for you, and then it would come up with titles, meta copy, meta description copy, or even full articles, and it would all sort of write that all within WordPress. And I guess it was slightly neater integration, but actually it looked a bit messy because it was. It wasn't quite, while it was inside WordPress, in a place where you're doing the writing, the interface was not actually quite as easy as OpenAI. And I think actually the results in this are better. I almost wish it was a paid application that I could have given them some money and use it in a way that I would feel happier with, because it's still a bit of a beta at the moment. But it's great, and I recommend you have a play with it. I recommend you use it not only for search engine optimization, but maybe summarizing articles. It can actually go out to the web and summarize website pages for you. So it's test it out and let me know what you come back with, because I think there's some fun things, and maybe we'll do a full walkthrough of this later. But I will just stress again, just don't take the output it gives you and just expect to copy and paste that and use it, whether it's code or content for an article, you want a professional to look at that. You really want to understand what's going on. Definitely. Something else I've got a note here that it's worth mentioning is a previous one. We did a grab bag on copywriting. So going through lots of copywriting questions with Catherine Ebery from Pippin. So if you do want to meet a good copywriter, there's Catherine. We've also got Jack. He's on a number of different episodes as well. You know, just go through their sort of recommendations and sort of check them out. They're definitely worthwhile. But I do think ChatGPT is a great thing to start you off and, you know, and work with. And certainly if you are a content writer, I would start working with AI, because it's going to maybe speed up your process and take away some of the drudgery. I know I'll be using it for just generating keyword ideas, because it's something that takes time, and actually it comes up with pretty good results. I don't know how we're doing for time, Claire, but I think we've covered a couple of questions we'd earmarked. Was there anything else we want to look at?
No, I think we've sort of covered it for this episode. So just to kind of let you know what's happening next week. So next webinar will be ideas on how to create remarkable video content. So you'll be hosting that one for us.
Cool. Yeah, this is going to be, it's actually something I've done a lot at various other different workshops. So I don't think I've done it here. So I'm going to take a slice of that, and we're going to be diving into that next week. Yeah, that should be fun. So to finish off, we're here every Friday from 10 a.m, unless it's Christmas or I'm on holiday. We cover everything in marketing, from strategy, social, SEO, video, and chatbots sometimes. If you've got something exciting to share, email support@ratherinventive.com, and Claire will be in touch. Certainly, if you want to come on, do let us know. We'll be happy to have you. And don't forget, you can catch up on all our previous webinars at ratherinventive.com/membership. And we are starting to release some of the older ones now. So, you know, if you know anyone if you like our show and you want to share that with anyone else, get them onto our YouTube channel, and we're going to start to give away all of the stuff that's over 12 months old. Thank you very much for watching, and we'll see you all next week. Bye for now.